once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
Today's question comes from Vince.
Yes.
Vince, you are our best viewer. You are always submitting fantastic questions.
You know, I rarely watch our stuff because I'm pretty certain I've seen most of it already.
Really? It's just reruns for you.
Yeah, I know what happens.
So, Vince, now that I have credited you, what is your question?
Is it okay to like bad movies?
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
The answer is no, and you should feel bad. I'm kidding.
Okay, so this all comes down to something that I always really like to talk about, which is having a critical mind versus not having a critical mind. Mm-hmm. Is it okay to turn your brain off to enjoy something that you might not enjoy if you think like a thinking person?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
And I base that on this. You can recognize. Don't necessarily shut your brain off to where you think, okay, this is great, fantastic literature or whatever. I'm watching something that should be part of film canon. Of course, Rockabilly Vampire should be part of film canon. It's genius. How did you do it? I shut my brain off and I enjoyed the film immensely. Anyway.
Or even something more well-liked, like Army of Darkness or something.
Yeah, well, I think Army of Darkness is a good movie.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, it's not like art, is it?
No.
Would you...
I mean, you don't necessarily...
Maybe within its own subgenre, but I'm just saying, I mean, it's still kind of a spoof comedy type movie.
Yeah. I mean, it is quirky, it is goofy, and that's the thing.
I'm also not saying that's a bad movie, but...
I mean, I suppose one thing we might want to address, I'm not sure, is what constitutes a bad movie.
Oh, sure, yeah, well, but that's always up to,
yeah,
your own opinions and, subjective viewpoints, and whether or not you're looking at something with a critical eye or not.
Yeah. I think you can enjoy something based on your own personal, enjoyment, whatever floats your boat,
yeah,
and still recognize that it's a bad movie. I mean, the other day I was watching Hot Tub Time Machine.
Okay.
And I have to say, I thought it was funny. I thought it was tasteless. I thought the plot was stupid. And I still enjoyed it.
I got one for you. I love Balls of Fury.
That
is not a good movie, but I love that movie.
I liked it too.
It's hilarious. A lot of people hate that movie. It's not. I'm not going to say it's a good movie.
You know, the interesting thing about Balls of Fury is it's very much so. Sorry, I think it's interesting in relation to other films that have come out around the same time. I mean, because you look at Balls of Fury, and it is a movie that is trying to be so epic that it's funny, and they're still
it's making fun of movies like that.
Yeah, but you look at movies that are out there around it, things like Hot Rod. Then you have movies that are trying to be so unepic and treat it like it is epic that it's funny. And then it becomes irritating to me, because Hot Rod I thought was amusing in some ways, but I get tired of the boastful, worthless protagonist who has no actual skills or abilities or intellect or anything worthwhile, and yet he thinks he's so incredibly awesome. He's like, I'm a stuntman, that's what I do. Sticks his chest out and his chin up, and he tucks his face back, and then he looks like a moron. Which is the point. But, I'm sorry, maybe my little bias has come out here. Hot Rod, also, if you thought it was funny, worthwhile to like, but not necessarily a good movie.
Yeah, I think that I look at movies from two different minds sometimes, and I also think that as I've become more critical of things, I have ended up enjoying certain things. I've ended up enjoying certain things less, which is unfortunate sometimes. Where I'll go, oh, I liked that before I knew anything, and sometimes that doesn't hurt me. It just depends on what it is. And I think it depends on why you like the thing in the first place. Like, if you thought it was really artistic, if you thought it was great, and I mean, if you thought it was, great in a story way. Like, I don't even mean ever since I've been, doing criticism on YouTube. I mean, like, since I've had a college education, since I went to school for writing, and then I learned what good story was supposed to be, and then I'm like, oh, that's not a good story, is it? I had this, unfortunately, with Batman, which is still one of my favorite movies but I've more 89, but more recently, every time I watch it, I find that I'm liking it less and less, and I'm starting to think maybe I'll have to just stop watching it. Because I still love it for the reasons I used to love it, but there was a point where I kind of think I thought it was more artistic than it is. From a story angle, where like I started to learn, and I mean, like, you grow as a person. Like, don't make fun of me for this. You grow as a person, and so what happens is, well, you love that movie too.
I do like that movie.
But what happened to me is I began to learn as I grew my critical mind that the times where I thought something was great from a story reason, and it really was because of style and ambiance and visual stuff, where that made up for its story flaws until I started really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that can be a hindrance to your enjoyment of something you used to enjoy, but it doesn't mean that it has to be. I'm also not saying that's a bad movie, but it's got its flaws that I didn't catch. And I think it just depends on whether or not you recognized the flaws it had and still liked it anyway, versus, oh, I didn't notice that. Crap.
I do think that something can be good with flaws. I mean, looking back at Zombieland, I had a handful of things. Wait, Zombieland? Is that the name of the movie?
What, is that the name of Zombieland?
Yeah. I was like, wait, is it Zombie World? Wait, I forgot what it was.
Zombieland is indeed the title of Zombieland, Vince.
All right.
Anyway.
Is Zombieland the title of Mickey's Wild Ride? Is that what it is? But,
potentially better than Mickey's Wild Ride.
Probably. I'd like to shoot some zombies, but on Mickey's Wild Ride.
This is getting odd. Go ahead.
But looking back at Zombieland, there was a whole handful of things that bothered me about the movie. But I still think it's critically a good movie. I just think there was a couple of odds and ends that I thought they left out that needed to be considered. And I think you can have a flawed movie that's still good. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Nothing's perfect, and even and then there are things that aren't even close to perfect that are still worthwhile and relevant. Sure.
I mean, I think even some of the things in film canon have stories that aren't necessarily good. Like if they would have made the movie today, it would have been considered like a worthwhile to be a student film of some kind. So, like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, that's really only significant because it's considered the first horror movie.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I don't think that that movie made today would really shake anybody up.
Well, absolutely. I mean, sometimes movies end up getting acclaimed because of what they did rather than what they achieved, as opposed to what they actually were. The Matrix is so like this, right? I think The Matrix is a great movie, more from a philosophical standpoint, certainly, than from an actual storytelling standpoint. Its characters are all archetypical. That's on purpose. But I mean, it's known for much more for its technical contributions than anything else. It's known for what it did rather than for what it was. I think you go back into film canon and you find that a lot of things are that way. Citizen Kane, considered to be the best movie ever made by the American Film Institute. It is actually a really good movie. It's a really well made movie. But is it considered the best movie ever made because of what it is, or more so because of what it did and what it gave to the because it was ahead of its time and its choreography and its directing and all that kind of stuff.
There's aspects of it, just the way they use the camera. Like they have this deep focus lens that they would use for particular scenes. Like I remember one particular scene where Citizen Kane was in the background dancing around. I forget the point. They were celebrating, and everything was in focus. And that's interesting to me, and that's one of the reasons why the movie is so critically acclaimed, is because of the types of lens and how things were shot. So, I think the point here, what we're trying to get at is, it's worthwhile to like something that's bad, because even the things that are in film canon aren't necessarily what we would consider good. They're just significant. Not that Citizen Kane isn't good.
I also want to dissect the question a little bit, because I think that part of what goes into this is asking, well, what is film for, right? I think part of figuring out what is good about something, because that's such a relative term. It's a generic term. It's cryptic. You know, what does it mean? It means different things for different people. And so, what is the film trying to achieve? More importantly, what are you as the viewer wanting to get out of it? And I think that particular aspect helps us understand why this is so subjective. Why different people find different things to be good. Mm-hmm. Because I might watch a movie for a different reason than you watch the same movie. If you and I are both watching The Godfather, and I'm expecting a wild ride, that's a bad movie. Mm-hmm. But if I'm watching The Godfather, and I'm expecting a well-executed story, albeit a slowly paced story, and I can look past that, and I want to, and I want to get into, the head of a character, and deal with a character study, and that kind of thing, maybe it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's an interesting thing, is even some good movies, like The Godfather, they have, I was watching Family Guy, and they made a joke where Peter said that he didn't like The Godfather because it insists upon itself. Well, it does. That's the thing. It's a fairly pretentious flick.
Yeah, sure.
But when it boils right down to it, it's trying to do something different than some other gangster movies. I mean, you look at a lot of gangster movies; they're sort of exploitative, and they're really employing the roller coaster effect. And The Godfather's trying something different. Not that it's the only one that's ever tried that, or even the first one. Mm-hmm. It's just one of them that's significant to us. So if you want something that's a little more traditional in how gangsters are treated, even though it's a little atypical. I mean, you might try Goodfellas, or you might try Public Enemy #1, going back a little bit further. Angels with Dirty Faces, something, because those movies were made with a particular intent. We are going to put you through an ordeal. We want you to see crime as we want you to see it, as opposed to The Godfather, which was, we want you to study Al Pacino and Marlon Brando's characters. We want you to know these people as if they are real people.
That's why I think sometimes it really is worthwhile to know what something is before you go into it. Mm-hmm. I know people who refuse to watch trailers and refuse to read any sorts of synopses and don't want to know... Well, not that they refuse to watch trailers. I guess they wouldn't really know about a movie. But, they don't want to know anything beyond that. Mm-hmm. And the problem, and I'm not saying that that's a bad way to go. I have enjoyed some movies more sometimes because I didn't know anything about them walking in, and then there are movies that I saw and I was like, boy, I'm glad I knew what that was, because you're not always going to be in the right mindset, and sometimes you have to put yourself in the right mindset. Mm-hmm. For certain kinds of movies. So if you go into, I've brought this up before, but if you go into Apocalypse Now and you're expecting to enjoy yourself, you're not going to. If you go into that movie knowing what it is and being prepared, then I don't think enjoy is the right word, but you'll appreciate it more. You'll be glad you were there, maybe.
I watched a movie the other day that I fully expected to enjoy. It was called Depressy McDepresserton.
Right. Anyway.
Horrible movie, by the way.
Yeah. No, not any worse than the joke, though.
Ow. I'm gonna go cry now.
No, I'm kidding. I watched a movie the other day. You should watch. That was really cool. And I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it's a movie, so I guess it relates because it's a movie. No, this will kind of relate. Here we go. I saw a British film the other day that was out in 2007. That just came out on Netflix streaming. So I thought I'd try it because it looked interesting. Called Exam. You heard of this movie?
No.
It's about a group of people who are vying for the same job, but they don't know exactly what the job is. And they go into this exam room, and they have to take this test, but it's not a conventional test. They sit down and they think it's a conventional test because they have a pencil and a piece of paper, and then the guy comes in and explains the rules and leaves, and then you realize that it's not like a conventional test. And they've got 80 minutes. We watch it in real time. We watch them for the next 80 minutes, and we, along with the people there, are trying to figure out what the question is they have to try to answer. And the whole thing is like this giant mind game. The whole thing is like this giant puzzle. It's one of the coolest psychological thrillers I've seen in a long time.
Does it all take place in one room?
The whole thing takes place in one room.
That sounds like a stage play. That's awesome.
It is, and it would be really good as a stage play. And I didn't know what it was going into it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But it's not for everybody. You know, it's one of those movies where there's a lot of people standing around looking at each other because you would. You know, it's trying to put you in the room with them and trying to get you to answer this question.
That sounds like something that if you like 12 Angry Men, you might like Exam.
That's exactly what I thought. As soon as I got 10 minutes into the movie, I thought, oh, this is going to be like that, isn't it? And I love that movie.
You know, 12 Angry Men I watched on accident. When I was in high school, I was supposed to sit there and watch something in my drama course, and the substitute teacher picked up the wrong VHS and stuck it in the player. Yeah, we had VHSs when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah, man, the dark ages.
She picked up the wrong VHS, and we ended up watching 12 Angry Men, and like 30 minutes into it, she's like, oh, that's the wrong one. We should change it out. What do you know? Leave this in. This is great. Who cares what the other thing is? So, where are we going with this?
I bring this up a lot, but so much of this is about taste issue. Mm-hmm. You know, people can say, this movie is paced badly. Well, maybe it's paced slowly, or maybe it's paced quickly. That doesn't mean it's paced badly, right?
Yeah. I mean, the intent
but there are things that are paced badly. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I want to address something we said earlier, and we can bring it back to this.
Absolutely.
You said let's look what film is for. I mean, the intent is to, generally speaking, is to entertain.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Well
done. Thanks for bringing us back.
So even if sometimes you have an intent that's trying to be artistic in some way, but I think even there you're trying to speak to a particular crowd to entertain them. Depending on how you look at the word entertain.
Yeah, there's that. Less ambiguous than good, but still ambiguous.
Yeah. I mean, if your idea of entertainment is to sit down and think about something, which sometimes it is. I mean, that's what I like to spend my spare time doing, is talking with, just having a conversation with a friend.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I've had friends that say, we need to go do something. This isn't enough for me to just sit here and chat. And as much as they enjoy their interesting conversations with Vince.
Well, that's really interesting because let's look at the word entertain. What do people need in the old school fashion? What do people mean when they say I'm going to entertain friends at my house? Doesn't mean they're going to juggle.
Everybody get together. I'm singing show tunes.
When you see like period pieces set in the 1900s in Britain or even America, and someone says, I'm going to entertain guests in the drawing room. Mm-hmm. Well, what do they mean by that? It means that they're going to have people over and they're going to have a conversation. They're going to have intellectual stimulation generally,
it means they're all going to
have tea. But that's generally what that means. We're going to sit and talk a minute.
Crumpets. They're going to sit down in the drawing room with pencil and paper. They're all going to draw.
You have 80 minutes to figure out what you're supposed to do with this pencil and this piece of paper.
And then one draws a gun and shoots another one. So they drew Chekhov's gun. Not Chekhov. I said that wrong. Wait, is it? Screw it. It doesn't matter.
He wrote some plays.
I was like, Anton Chekhov? Is that the guy?
Yeah, that's the guy. Anyway,
anywho,
but yeah, I mean, it depends on what you find entertaining. I have the same problem sometimes, Vince. You and I are very similar that way. Where all friends go, "What are we gonna do?" I'm good. We're talking. We're having a conversation, and I can be thoroughly entertained as long as the writing is engaging, and I care about the characters, and I like where the plot's going. To watch some people in a room talk for 20, 30, 80 minutes.
Sometimes the word entertain just means to occupy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, I entertained that guy's rants for a while. He was kind of an idiot, but I entertained him.
Can even mean the same as sample.
Yeah, or even tolerate.
Paid attention. Yeah. We're getting close. What are some bad movies that you like, Vince?
Trauma movies?
See, I can't do those.
There are some things. I can't enjoy them all, but some of the classics Toxic Avenger.
That's the big one, and I don't like that movie.
I'm not saying it's really not a good movie. Rockabilly Vampire was a piece of trash, by the way. I thought it would be funny, but it wasn't.
Does Toxic Avenger count as a superhero film?
I think it does.
Because if it does, it means I have to review those.
Well, that's okay.
And I don't want to have to do that.
Well, you see, if that's the case, then you also have to review Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD.
That doesn't sound like a superhero film.
That kind of is. Yep.
Not any more than RoboCop.
Well, maybe.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of some good bad movies. Boy.
You see, I think comedies get a little bit of leeway here.
Yeah, they
as
do,
long
right?
as it's funny, who really cares?
Airplane is a great movie.
See, I never liked Airplane.
Oh, you didn't?
I never liked The Holy Grail.
I don't love Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It was funny the first time in places, but the problem is that was one of those movies where I had heard too many of the jokes already. Mm-hmm. So, like, it was too hyped. It was too hyped up for me from people I knew. That was the problem with that one for me.
Sin City? It's okay to like Sin City.
Hey. I'll make no bones about it. I like the spirit. That's not a good movie, but
That's a good point.
But I like the spirit.
I will say that I enjoy Hulk, even though most people hate that movie.
Of course, I did my bit on Hulk, but that's not a bad movie. I gave it a 2 out of 4. That's an average score.
A good example. I hated it, but I enjoyed Catwoman.
Really? You enjoyed that movie?
Yeah, because I fully knew that I was going to hate that, and I psychoanalyzed that movie the entire time and found it hilarious.
Yeah, I went into that with not... The thing is, sometimes I'll say this, I went into that with no expectations, so I kind of liked it. I went into Catwoman with negative expectations. You know what I mean? Like, planning to thoroughly hate it, and I didn't as thoroughly hate it because of that. But I don't know if that's because it did anything right. Like,
no.
I mean, once when I reviewed it, I raked it over the coals, but not because I was expected to, but because I was looking at it critically, and it was a bad movie.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You see, for me, and maybe this makes me a horrible person, but one of the reasons I liked it so much is because I thought it was so counterproductive to women's lib.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because it's not to say that I want it to be counterproductive to women's lib. It's just a movie that should be about female empowerment being counterproductive is like realistic irony. Or not real, even just real irony, and it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, the saddest thing in the world is the fact that we've had 2, mainstream comic book movies that are entirely about a female protagonist, and they're both bad.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
And and not that I care that much about Black Widow, but if they do the Black Widow movie, I want it so badly to be like the most amazing thing in the universe, just so we have a decent female superhero movie, because that's not fair.
I sort of wish they'd recast Black Widow.
Really?
Yeah. It's not because she did so bad, it was because she's so underwhelming, and I think she's such a low-key actress.
I think she was too. But the thing is, she wasn't featured so prominently in that movie that I hardly noticed.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it makes me like a little leery, but I can't say for certain whether or not I think it'd be bad. But when I saw the movie, I just wanted somebody that was a little more strong. She seemed so weak. Now, maybe that was the point because she was playing an underling in the movie. But even when she was being Black Widow, I didn't fully believe that she was Black Widow. I mean, I believe the character would have been doing what she was doing. I just didn't believe Scarlett Johansson was Black Widow.
Yeah.
That was an entirely different discussion.
Do you like... what is that movie? I'm sorry, I can't think of what it's called. Well, I can't think of it.
What's it about?
Oh, I was gonna... Armageddon.
Armageddon?
I think Armageddon's a pretty bad movie.
I haven't seen it in such a long time, but when I was a kid, I enjoyed it.
I didn't like it when I first saw it, but I think part of the problem there was that, that was that period where we kept getting these like big disaster movies where they put out 2 disaster movies about the same thing in a year, and one was pretty good and one was pretty awful. Because that was the same year as Deep Impact, or around the same year, and Deep Impact was decent, I thought. And then and then Armageddon did the same thing, but it was so over the top. It was also my first introduction to Liv Tyler, and I don't like Liv Tyler. I decided after that. But she was okay in Incredible Hulk, so I can't really her too much.
I thought she was too damsel in distress, but that's just me.
And then, like, did you ever see Dante's Peak and Volcano?
Yeah.
Those were the same way. Like, Dante's Peak was better because it was a little bit more underplayed. And then, what was the other one I just said? Volcano.
Oh,
Volcano was, like, way over the top. Like, let's put a volcano in the middle of the city. And let's give, that guy that was in that movie? I can't think of things today.
We're going to call him protagonist.
No, Tommy Lee Jones. Let's give him another crazy over the top role. Like
he played Two-Face in Volcano.
Tommy Lee Jones was one of those actors that will do any movie, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah. There was another movie he was in that I enjoyed that was bad.
Oh, are you gonna say what I think you're gonna say?
What do you think?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that cheerleader movie.
Oh no, that's not what I was gonna. What are you talking about?
I forget the name of the movie, but he played this guy that looked after cheerleaders because they were apparently targets of some criminal.
Here's a really great example of this. Liking a movie that's not all that great. What is that? What's that movie Tommy Lee Jones was in about the submarine?
Oh man,
you know what I'm talking about?
No,
I can't think of it now.
Well, while you're trying to think of that,
yeah.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
Horror movies.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Oh, there's so many.
ones.
Yeah.
But I enjoy some. Like for example, Cursed. I don't know if you've seen Cursed.
I haven't.
It's a werewolf movie starring Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg. It's funny in ways that. And it gets to a certain point in the movie and you realize it really is supposed to be funny.
Hey, science fiction movies are like this too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how about Last Starfighter? That's not a great movie.
You know, I can never bring myself to get past the first 10 minutes of that movie.
Fair enough.
I just can't do it.
I still sort of like it, but that's such a B type movie. And honestly, it did pretty well at the box office. Like,
it's a cult classic.
It is, yeah.
There are certain movies that I just can't like. Like, for example, I like Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I understand why somebody wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy who I think put it succinctly as you possibly can. It is so aggressively weird that he just can't like it. And I say, fair enough, man. Go for it. You don't like it? That's yours.
Okay, this is driving me absolutely crazy. On the podcast, I'm going to call my wife and find out what the name of that movie is, because I cannot remember it for the life. It's driving
We
me
can edit
crazy.
things out.
No, that's cool.
It'll be called Submarine.
No, why can't I
Down
not think of that?
Periscope.
Oh, Down Periscope. See, that's a movie that is bad and also not all that great.
Well, it wouldn't be Up Periscope, would it?
No, it's Down Periscope.
Well, there's a movie called Up Periscope. Down
No,
Periscope's a spoof.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Was Down Periscope. Hey, I have a question. What is the name of that Tommy Lee Jones movie that we like?
We could have just gotten IMDb, but I guess he's gonna call it.
Yeah, Under Siege. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. Under Siege.
That's hilarious.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. I just knew I could get you to say that faster than I could look it up on IMDb. We're actually recording the podcast right now.
I kind of wish that it would be spelled CEAGE. Under Siege.
Anyway, thanks, Sarah. Okay, Under Siege. Yeah, that's one of those movies that's not all that good, but I like it. Did you ever see that?
They should call it Under the Water in a Submarine.
You should watch Under Siege. It has Cole Meany in it.
Cole Meany.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't be so mean to people. I don't know who that is.
Oh, you don't? Okay, whatever. Anyway, Chief O'Brien in DS9?
Oh.
Cole Meany.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to rants, Vince.
All right. Me first or you first?
Go ahead.
All right. There is a particular phrase that has entered into the vernacular of American youth, and I want to punch people in the face when they say it. And that is, I know, right? So many people say this. I hear it all day, every day.
I know, right?
I was talking to, actually it was my brother's girlfriend. She just up and said, I know, right? And I was like, yeah. I don't know why, because obviously it's a rhetorical question. Nobody's asking me to confirm. And then she said, I need to stop saying that. I know, right? I say that a lot. And I said, cool. Well, I'm going to say something next time you say it. And she's later said, I know, right? I said, I do know. And it is right. So every time she would say that, I just get really into it.
Yeah, our American vernacular is just filled with these filler words now.
It is annoying.
And what's sad, of course, is that we're a product of our generation. And I do it too. Like, I don't say that, but I say like a lot.
Yeah, I say like. I say
which I never
like.
used to do, and then it just sort of slipped into my, vocabulary at one point, and I just kept doing it.
The thing about like and
it's become
is that
accepted. No one's ever called me on it.
This could be a GNN, I suppose.
I suppose it could.
American vernacular and how it sucks. But there are things...
Oh, you'll get me heated and angry, and I will throw things on the podcast.
And you will be able to see, because they'll sound like this. But
That's the sound of things being thrown?
Yes. Paper being thrown.
Really? Because it sounded like a very tiny stapler.
But my point here is that and like and things like that can be tossed in quickly. But when you say, I know, right? You're halting a conversation to say that.
No,
because you have to take the time to fit all those words. When you say, here's the deal. But I know, right? That's annoying. It's like if you're trying to do a rant and you have to suddenly stop and say, I know, right? It's difficult to come back from that. You lose your audience and then you have to build them back up.
I want to know what bothers you more. That or all those years ago?
I know, right? I know, right bothers me much more than all those years ago. All those years ago, I look at the people who say it, and if they say it sincerely, I think, my God, you're corny. But the people who say, I know, right, I'm like, say something better.
I saw even another thing the other day with all those years ago, and I can't remember what it was. But I saw something, and it had it in there. I'll remember it later. It was great. Okay. Can I go?
Go for it.
Okay, I watched the pilot, or the first episode, of Young Justice, finally.
Oh, yeah?
Did you watch that?
Yeah, I liked it.
Here's what I didn't like about it.
Go for it.
I enjoyed a lot of stuff about it. It's a series I would watch. I really like what they did with Cadmus. Cadmus was played totally straight. I was like, I never thought I'd see, Double X done right, or done at all, and things like that. That was cool. Here's what I didn't like about it. It was really corny at the end. It got really corny in places. And you get to the end, and the Justice League comes out, or I'm sorry, the soon-to-be members of Young Justice, they come out of Cadmus, of the mountain thing, and every person who's ever been a member of the Justice League ever is waiting for them. That was weird. Was that weird to you?
Yeah.
45 people were out there, and it looked like it was just there so they'd have a big epic looking pan shot of everybody who's ever been in Justice League. It's we just felt like getting to draw these characters, so there they are. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense or is real. I'm like, why is Black Canary here? Why are all these people here anyway?
She was bored and they gave her overtime.
Yeah. So that was odd. And then the way they introduced, what is it, Martian Girl?
Yeah.
Miss Martian? What is it? What do they call her?
Something like that. I don't know.
Anyway, I didn't like how they introduced her. She's not even part of the first episode at all. They just, they've got their members of Young Justice that they've been developing throughout, and then at the end, oh, yeah, we need a girl. There she is. It's boy, that feels a little, too 90s to me. I'm thinking, we should be slightly more progressive. How about we let the girl get a character that gets developed along with everybody else? And this isn't really that big of a problem, but I just wondered what the deal was with Speedy. Because you get to the end, and he's in there, and then you get to the end, and he's not a member. I didn't really understand why that was. Why did they even bring him in at all?
That's something that really, really bothered me about that, actually. Why, and I think we could actually address this in another show.
Sure.
Why is it that teenage characters have to be two-dimensional, or at least most of them? I mean, the only ones that didn't feel flat to me were Impulse or Kid Flash, whatever
Kid Flash, yeah.
And Aqualad. I felt like one was a soldier and the other one was just a guy. I felt like he was a real kid, but the other ones felt like stereotypes to me.
I felt like they have the potential, though, to go places with Superboy.
Yeah.
I did feel that was okay, and of course Robin was just obnoxious, but I think part of that was the voice casting.
I think it was mostly that they were just trying to make him sound like the extreme hacker guy.
Yeah, it didn't work. That was obnoxious, and if they don't relax on that, it's going to be enough to make me not want to watch it. But it had probably, it wasn't terrible, but it just had some bizarre problems. I like the fact that they're doing Justice League stuff in it. I get the sense that they're going to have that they're not going to skimp on the adult characters, that they'll be around every so often. I mean, when they said, I haven't watched the next episode, but when they set it up at the end and they were Batman's going to send them on missions, I kind of got the sense that we'd see Batman every so often send them off on and do something, so that was, I don't know. It's okay, but and the other thing I was gonna ask you is, did you get the sense that Aqualad was kind of cool, yeah. But did you get the sense that he was playing the same role as Martian Manhunter? He felt like Martian Manhunter to me. He seemed like he was filling that exact same role. He's kind of the stoic, unemotional guy, kind of brings everybody down to earth.
You know,
he talks kind of like Martian Manhunter talks.
That hadn't even occurred to me, but that makes sense. I mean, I think maybe it is that the writers have a problem distinguishing between a soldier who's very to the point and blunt and cold,
and somebody who's more like Vulcan-like.
Yeah, and somebody who doesn't have emotion. So,
I still like this characterization.
Yeah, he was my favorite out of the group. Well, him and Kid Flash, but.
Well, anyway, we're all out of time, but thanks a lot for listening to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
We'll see you again next time.
On our audio podcast.
On our audio podcast, opposed to that video podcast we do.
We'll see you then.